This is something you can hopefully use when you're going to do something a little nicer. Let's create a simple cube. Okay. So if we have something like a cube, if we just use the basic cube, it will look like very CG, something from the 80s or something like that. But simple things like adding a bevel, if I can find it in the new here, bevel, and just make this really really small, like really small. Like so. Maybe it's too small. Just put it to... What happened there? Yeah. Just make it something like this. Actually, that's too much. Okay. Something very subtle like this. And as you can see, the cube suddenly looks a lot more interesting. Just because we have this little bevel that catches some of the light. So if we just create another one on the side, cube, and just move that over. Just scale that up. You can see this one looks a lot more interesting. You get the feeling that it has a shape, that it's actually there, just because we have this slight bevel on the hard edges. We could also soften this by adding extra segments, like so. That makes it look even nicer in many ways, because now it's a rounded corner. I probably went a little overboard there. This should be plenty. Okay. So that makes it look a lot more interesting. This sort of just becomes a gray blob, and this actually looks like a physical cube, because nothing in the real world is really like sharp. Of course, a blade would be, but most other things has these rounded corners. So that's one thing that you should think about when you model things and you want them to look nice and trustworthy, is to create these little details that make it look nice. It can be tricky to do it sometimes if you have like a really complicated model, because it should be something you do sort of in the end. So that's a little example here. Let's try something else. If we create a cylinder. Right. And I will change this to 8. And I will give it some more subdivisions in the height. Oh, not that one. Maybe a couple there. And that one. So, okay. So you probably know by now that if you press 3, it will soften this. Most people agree that the number of subdivisions needed for making something look round in the right way is 8 subdivisions. You can go with less, like 6. It still looks sort of okay, but 8 has a lot of advantages. So it's a good idea to use 8. Let's just do something interesting here. So we'll just grab that, remove the bottom part, so now it's an open shell, and then I'll do a cube there, and I'll make the cube bigger, this down, and I'll grab the top face here and I'll extrude that in. Grab the extrude tool and then just I can use the offset, or I can just scale it in here like so. Okay. So what we can do with this thing here is that we can start to use the four-sided polygon to work it into the cylinder here. Because if I just hide this, if I just work with this and then maybe extrude that up like so, and then I can use the insert edge loop tool. Oh, let's just smooth it like so. It looks like a big blob. So I'll use the insert edge loop tool there, and I'll insert a loop up here. So that will sort of hold the shape up here. And I'll insert a loop down here, because that will sort of hold the shape there. And then I can add shapes at other places. But as you can see, this becomes sort of round, but it's not really ideal. So what I'd like to do instead of this is just get rid of this, create a new cube. There. And then give this cube just one extra subdivision, like this. And that's because I know that I want, Shift H there. I want this one to fit in later. Okay. So to make a model where you can mix things in, it's nice to have this sort of layout here. Okay. So what I'll do is I will grab this vertex here and I will do a poke. If it's still called poke, yes it is. There we go. Ooh, that poked a lot. Okay. We have to. Okay. That was a bit extreme. That wasn't really what I wanted. Let's see if they moved that to extrude. Yeah, there we go. And set that to 0. Okay, so we get this. We have this area here, and I can change the size of it using the slider here. So I'll just let's put it somewhere like here, and then I'll just grab these faces here, and I'll get rid of those, and then I'll use my cut tool, and I will cut from this point here to that there. So if I hold shift, it'll snap. Right click, and the same here, and then shift click, right click, and the same over here. Yeah, and same here. Okay. So now, as you can see, I have this 8-sided polygon here. Just grab these middle ones. I could grab these one as well. Oh, maybe I should grab these ones. It doesn't really matter as long as it's every second vertex here. And then as I scale these in, you can see I start to get the same shape as what we have here. And if I smooth it, you can see I get this round hole. So they match up. And I think really one of the reasons why 8 is so popular is that it's really good at subdividing chords, because you just go and say, okay, I want to insert something here, and then you know how to like make it subdivide the right way. Okay, so let's just make these two models become one. Maybe I should just match this up a little better first. So maybe go to top view and then just see it's almost there, and then move it down until it's, see, then it's nearly there. It's very close. So I grab these two, and then I go to mesh and I go combine, and they become one mesh. But they're still two separate shells. You can see that there's a little edge here. So what I'll do is I want to merge this together, Depending on how accurate you were, you have to like merge it manually, or you can work your way with the merge tool. So for instance, if I just go and say vertex, and I'll just grab all of the vertices here, and then I'll just make sure to deselect the ones I don't want to affect. Let's see, so now I got these, and then I go to merge, and let's see, if I zoom in, it still has a separation, but I have this distance threshold, so if I just turn that up, at some point I hit the point where it will start merging them. And if I press 3 now, you can see it's one continuous mesh. If we look at the soft version here, maybe I want this to be a little sharper, a little more defined. So I can use my insert edge loop tool. And because this has been laid out like this will actually be a loop around these. So I can just draw this, drag this in so it's close. There. And now that edge going around here will like hold everything together. If I want to have something like what I had before with the edges, I can use the bevel tool. Whoa. I can use the bevel tool like before, or I can start to insert other edge loops. So if I insert one there, you can see that adds detail, and if I insert one there, it adds detail. And then if I insert one here, that will get a little tricky. So that's not what I want. As you can see, that will make this edge here look really weird, right? Oh. Here. So you can see that doesn't look the way I want it. Yeah, so let's get rid of that. So what I can do is do some other sort of edge work on this part going across here. What I could do is just extrude this part out a little bit. That would work. I could use the bevel tool on some of these. That should work pretty well as well. Or I can just cut through these. So if I just go to front view, and I take my multi-cut, and I hold the shift key, and then I just drag a line through here. That cuts, as you can see, all the way through. I can do the same thing over here. I hold the shift key and drag it down there. Oh, I need to make it go there. So it cuts all the way through. You see I cut this line going down here. So let's go to object mode and perspective, and then select this and press 3. So you can see I start to get this detail in there. Of course I need to do it in the other direction as well. So this was from the front view. I'll go to the right view and use the same tool again. Just position it here, shift, click, drag, and here, shift, click, drag. And as you can see now, I get something that looks pretty nice. Oh, there we go. 3, there we go. So you can see I have this nice edge here, as well as I have this. The only thing is I get some funky lines going on when I smooth it. And the reason for that is, as you can see, I have this funny line going through here. And that's just somewhere where you have to do some cleanup work. So what you can do here is just grab, basically I can grab these vertices here and just merge those. There, just turn this up, there. And you can see as I press 3, I'll get a nice connection at that area, right? I can do something similar over here. So just grab that one, and that one. There's another tool called Merge to Center, which is basically what I want. press G to repeat. And G to repeat. Okay, so you can see when I smooth it now, I get a nice, oh, it looks funky though. I think it has to do with the graphics card doing funny things. So it looks kind of nice, and I get the nice flow in the model. I might be able to get away with this line here if I want to get rid of it. You can experiment with that, just going delete, see how that works. That works pretty well too. So that's the way you would model. You would like experiment with what lines are needed, what lines can you get away from. And you want the flow of the curves to be nice. You don't want things to look weird when they run together. Okay, another thing here is if I double click this edge and just press to 3, and if I move this up, you can see how this will tighten that edge up there, make that look more interesting. So if I move this really close, like so, I will get like a sharper, I think it's, there we go. I get this nicer edge up there. One thing you should know, and I might just do this with the plane. If I press 3 on this thing, this is now smoothed. And maybe what I should do is just apply a bend deformer. So I go to nonlinear bend and just need to rotate this around so that it fits here. Maybe hold the J key to just snap it. Yeah. And then bend a little bit. Rotate this down like this. Okay. So I get something like this. And if I just make this smaller, you can see I get this sort of thing. Now, let's just delete history on this. Yeah. So this curve here is the result of the distribution of these lines. So if I move these lines closer together, it will get sharper. And because of the way that smoothing is calculated, you need 3 lines on top of each other to create a really sharp edge. So let's just look at this from the front view. Oh, side view. There we go. And if I press 3, you can see how this looks. Now it's not rotated, or the bend node was not rotated exactly correctly, so that's why it looks a little funny. But if I go to vertex here, you can see as I bring these vertices closer to here, you can see it becomes sharper. Right? Same thing goes if I bring these closer here, it becomes a lot sharper. So I just need to just make these sort of more on one line, and the same for these. Just make them line up more like so. And as I move these closer to this up here, you can see that I receive a sharper edge up there. So if we look at it like this, you can see that now the edge looks really sharp. But if I grab that edge, which is actually sitting there, but because of the smoothing it looks like it's down there. When I start moving this away, you can see I get a smoother transition. So if you are working on a model and you want to create a sharper edge, you need to add more lines closer to that edge, or drag other lines closer to it. So for now, I think you should try to create something similar to this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but something similar. And I think that will run until the break.